Hello again, I am Christine J. Altares, your criminology lecturer. So for today's video, I will teach you how to do and what is the process when it comes to fingerprint classification and identification. And how about if the fingerprint or the finger is amputated or missing? So if you want to know it, please don't skip and finish this video to know and understand how is it that. So let's start. So first, what is fingerprint classification? The fingerprint classification is a formula given to a complete set of 10 fingers as they appear on a fingerprint card, generally based on pattern type, ridge count, or ridge tracing. So this fingerprint classification could be referred as alphabet, by which fingerprint cards are filled a location where, or at the same future, they can be located. Since the fingerprints do not change throughout life, neither does classification. Each time fingerprint card is classified, it yields the same classification. Many of us have family members with the same pattern type, prints, or tracing. This print can be seen in the same area of fingerprint pile. So the identification point seen in these fingerprints vary, but are similar enough to be classed as belonging to the same person. Take note that the fingerprints are valuable tool to the world, especially the police work, because in more is being discovered every year about tiny lines at the end of our fingerprints. It is now possible to obtain suspect prints on homicide victims under certain conditions. Who knows what the future has in store for this science of fingerprints. You can see here, fingerprint identification is one of the most important criminal investigation tools. A person's fingerprints do not change over time. Even identical twins have different fingerprints. Your fingerprints are yours and yours alone, and they'll be that way for the rest of your life. The only way a fingerprint can change is through permanent scarring. So this permanent scarring is which doesn't happen very often. Isn't just the fingerprint don't change. In addition, fingerprints are unique to an individual. Next is the fingerprint classification formula or system. In fingerprint classification system or formula, as you can see here, is a record have shown that there are more than 50 fingerprint classification throughout the world. We have the Gasti system of Italy, the Vater system of Holland, the Vucetich system of Argentina, and the most popular fingerprint system is the Henry Galton system, which this system is well known all over the world because of its influence and popularity among democratic countries, and it because of its gigantic facilities. So the main purpose of this classification is to facilitate the filing, searching, and retrieval of fingerprint records. This classification means the sorting of things into division or groups for easy and fast location. So in fingerprint parlance, classification refers to the arrangement of fingerprint records into groups, just as group for filing purposes. So if you are the person who has a basic knowledge of classification and the rules involved in the proper recording of fingerprints, will surely make a better technician than who knows nothing of food. So, in Philippines and other English-speaking countries, they use the Henry Galton system and the FBI system with modification and extension. So, this is the system that we are going to use in fingerprint classification system. So, in Henry Galton system, we have the primary division, secondary division, sub-secondary division, and final division. And in the FBI system with modification and extension, we have the major division and the key division. So there are 6 classifications. The classification of fingerprint patterns is reminiscence. For the 6 is PSSFMK. This is the sequence of division and classification fingerprints. Classification line. The classification line is placed in the top of the corner of the fingerprint classification card. So this is an example of fingerprint classification line. For this classification to remember the patterns or the order of the classification line is the KMPSSF, which is the key division, major division, primary division, secondary division, sub-secondary division, and final division. So to start the fingerprint classification, let's follow the sequence of 6 division of the PSSFMK. So first is the primary division. In primary division, there are 5 things you must remember. First, you have to memorize the fairing of the finger and their values. Second is only world patterns have value. Third, it says the primary division is the summation of all numerical values that are assigned to world patterns. Fourth, there are 10 fingerprints in which the assigned values to even numbers are expressed as numerators, and the assigned values of odd numbers represent as the denominator. And fifth is the most important is do not forget the free established represent 1/1. So here, we are with the first thing you should remember. You have to memorize the fairing of the fingerprint and their values. To do that, you need to memorize the position of each fingers on the fingerprint chart according where is it placed. As you can see here in the table, at the top of the table, the position of your right hand is indicated, and then the position of your left hand is the below of the table, which is from the thumb to finger. So the position of your fingers number is from right thumb to right little finger is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And below them, the left finger thumb to little finger is your number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So in this following table, it shows the placement of the numerical values of fingerprints considering the respective location of right and left hand. So in the next table, as you can see, the numerical values from the right hand are 16, 16, 8, 8, and 4. From the left hand, it's constitute the numerical values of 4, 2, 2, 1, and 1. These numerical values are the fingerprint based on the standard classification. Now you know the first thing to do in primary division. You can go now to the second thing, which is to find the world pattern because they are only ones with value. So in this chart, I use my actual fingerprint pattern. As you can see, I indicate the symbol for those patterns. For example, this DLW is a double loop word. VW is a plain word. UL is a ulnar loop. And CPLW is the central pocket loop word. So, As I said earlier, only whorls pattern have value. So it means this is the plain whirl, double loop whirl, central pocket loop whirl, and accidental loop whirl. As you can see in these charts, my fingers with patterns of whirl are the fingers number 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Next is the third step. As I said earlier, the primary division is the result of the summation of all the numerical values assigned to rows. So meaning there will be an addition for you to that you need to write their values here below. And of course, you also need to remember the number 4, which is appearing in the fingerprint chart or the 10 fingerprints, which is the assigned values to even numbers are expressed as numerators. And the assigned values of odd numbers, it represents as denominator. And as my addition to this, if the fingerprint pattern is a loop or arc appearing in a finger, the numerical values is equivalent to 0. So let's do in fingerprint number 1. The fingerprint number 1 is a double loop whirl. So it has a value. So we will put 16 in the denominator, because number 1 is an odd number. Next is a finger number 2. Finger number 2 is a double loop whirl. It has a value again. So we will add 16 in numerator, because number 2 is even number. Next finger, number 3, is ulnar loop. As I said earlier, if the fingerprint pattern is loop, the numerical values is equivalent to 0. So we will add 0 in the denominator, because the number 3 is an odd number. Next, finger number 4, plain whirl. It is a value. We will add 8 in numerator. Next, ulnar loop again, no value. We will add 0 in denominator. Next, plain whirl. It has a value. We will add 4 in numerator. Next, plain whirl. It has a value. So we will add 2 in the denominator. Next, plain whirl. It has a value again. We will add 2 in the numerator. Next, finger number 9. It's a plain whirl. It is a value. We will add 1 in the denominator. And last, finger number 10. Central pocket loop whirl. It has a value. So, we will add 1 in the numerator. So, if you add all of this, 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1, and it equals to 31. And in the denominator, 16 plus 0 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 is equal to 19. And of course, as I said earlier, in step number 5, it is important in a primary division to do not forget the pre-established fraction 1 over 1, which is my primary division is 32 over 20. To those who ask why there is 1 over 1, more because it is the lowest combination to obtain completion of the primary division. It's 1 over 1. And the highest is 32. And also, if the overall fingerprints has no whorl pattern, the answer will be 1 over 1. And if all the fingerprints pattern are whorls, the answer will be 32 over 32. As I showed earlier, the numerical values is 16 plus 16 plus 8 plus 8 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 31. And add the numerical value of 1 over 1 is equal to 32 over 32. So the primary division is 32 over 20. Do you still remember what we reminiscent of earlier? The KMPSSF. So the primary is in the middle. So next is the secondary division. So in this secondary division, we are going to use the capital letter of our index finger. The right index finger will serve as the denominator, and the left index finger will serve as the denominator. So as you can see in the table, these are the capital letters that you are going to use. That is, the corresponding symbol for patterns will be appear on the index finger. So plain arc will be A, tented arc will be T, radial loop is R, ulnar loop is U, plain whirl is W, central pocket whirl is C, double loop whirl is D, and accidental whirl is X. So to remember that the reminiscent of this is A through CDX. And we are going to use small letters for thumb, middle, ring, and little finger. Our reminiscent for this is rat. As you can see in the table, the loop is R, the plain arc is small letter A, and the tented arc is a small letter T. It means that radial loop, plain arc, and tented arc are you looking for. So let's try this one. So let's see the right index finger. The right index finger, we have double loop whirl. Following the A through CDX, you need to write capital letter W. When you write W, you need to be in the position of the index finger. You will write in numerator as a capital W. Next, the left index finger. The left index finger, we have plain whirl. You will write capital W again in the denominator, and that is below in the right index finger. And now let's go to the thumb, middle, and ring, and little. So the right thumb is a double loop whirl. That is not included in the wrap, so we will leave this blank. Next, the right middle finger is ulnar loop. Is split the rat? No. So again, you will leave this as a blank. Next, plain whirl. It is not also included the rat, so you will leave this blank. Next, ulnar loop. It is included in the rat. Definitely no. So you will leave this blank. Next, left thumb has a plain whirl. No, it is not included to the rat, so leave it blank. Next, plain whirl. It also not included with the rat, so leave this is blank. And left little finger is a plain whirl. It is still not included in the rat, so leave this blank again. After completing the secondary division, this is how the classification line following the reminiscence KMPSSF would look like this. Now we are in the sub-secondary division. The sub-secondary division, it is done by ridge counting of loops and ridge tracing of whirls, appearing in the index, middle, and ring fingers of both right hand and left hand. In subsecondary division, you need to know the three rules applied to loop patterns. In index finger, we have 1 to 9 ridges. This is the count for inner, or you can write it I as a symbol. And if the index finger has 10 or more ridge count, it is outer, or a symbol of O. Next is the middle finger. If the ridges count have 1 to 10 ridge count of middle finger, you will use the inner as a symbol of I. And if the middle finger has 11 and above, you will write O, or outer. Next, in the ring finger. In ring finger, if you have 1 to 13 ridges, you will use inner as a symbol of I. And if you have 15 and above, you will write O, or outer. Also, we have rules applied in word pattern that we will going to use for rules the IMO system. IMO system is the inner, meeting, and outer. In inner, it has 3 or more intervening ridges inside or in front of the right delta. Next, meeting. Meeting has a symbol of M. For the meeting, has a 2 or less intervening ridges that is inside or in front or outside below the right delta. And the O is for outer. Outer has a 3 or more ridges below or outside the right delta. So let's start in the right index finger. We have plain word, and it has a 17 intervening ridges above. So the classification of that is inner. So let's start in the right index finger. We have plain word. Plain word, it has a 17 intervening ridges above. So the classification of that is inner. So we will put an I in the numerator. So next, ulnar loop. Ulnar loop with 12 ridge count. As I said earlier, 1 to 9, 1 to 10, 1 to 13. So it is more than 10. So it is not included in inner. It is outer classification. So we will put O in numerator. Next, plain word has a 9 intervening ridges above, so it is inner classification. We will put I in numerator. Next, left index finger. We have plain word with 4 intervening ridges below, so it is outer. We will add this outer in the denominator. Next, plain word. It has 1 intervening ridges. So I did not indicate if it is above or below, because it doesn't matter. It is automatic meeting classification. We will put an M in denominator. Next, plain word has a 15 intervening ridges above, so it is inner classification. And after completing this sub-secondary division, this is how it's look. Still following the KMPPSFF pattern. Now we have done to the 3 classification. Next, we have major division. It is quite similar to sub-secondary, though it applies to the thumbs. only. And there are rules or modification for major classification that is used when both terms are loops, it having a table A or table B. And if earlier in sub-secondary classification is inner, outer, and meeting. In major division, we have small, medium, and large. For those who has when table A or table B can be used. This is how it depends on the number of counts of your ridge count of your left thumb. If your left thumb has a 1 to 16 ridge count, you will use the table A. And when your right thumb has a 17 or more ridge count, you will use table B. Let's try this one example of major division. Let's see, the left thumb has 2 intervening ridges. So, it is enters 1 to 16, meaning table A we will going to use. So, the right thumb has 17 intervening ridges above. Beyond 16, meaning it is large, is our classification. Next, as 2 intervening ridges. So, 1 to 16, it enters to 1 to 16. So, our in classification, it is small. It's easy, isn't it? So, after completing this major division, we have this classification line. Still following the KMP SSF pattern.